Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wimpy Studio. Today we're going to be talking about the season 3 finale of The Walking Dead called Welcome to the Tombs, and my dad is here to join me.
Hey everyone.
So we have made it to the end of another season of The Walking Dead. Overall, how did you feel about this finale? Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I liked it a lot. I think it was an excellent finale. I kind of wish they would have wrapped up some things with the governor, but considering that's not where the story was ending there, I thought it was done very well. What do you think?
I had some issues with it. I didn't think it was as strong as the season 2 finale, but what I will say is that I really liked the ending, in a lot of ways. Like that final scene with everyone coming to the prison, the Woodbury people. I thought that was really good.
Hmm.
But there was definitely parts throughout that I just didn't love. But we'll get into it. So, it starts off the actually kind of a cool. It's like a shaky camera. It's almost like the governor's like holding the camera and like shaking it, and you think he's talking to Andrea, like torturing her, but it actually turns out it's Milton, which I predicted that he would want to get his revenge on Milton. Um, and yeah, he pretty much tells Milton to kill Andrea, but then Milton tries to kill the governor. But of course, that backfired because then the governor just went ahead and stabbed him and left him in the room so he would go and turn and then bite Andrea, which is pretty much what happened. Spoiler alert. There was a bit of a struggle there, but no, I was sad when Milton died. I'm like, you guys couldn't have kept him around. Like that was like I feel like a big loss to the show because I feel like Milton could have offered so much. What do you think?
I agree. I like the character. I thought his little interaction with Herschel a few episodes ago was kind of a preview of what could come in a friendship and working together to bring peace to a community. So I was really sad to see him go. I was really sad that they, kind of put that on the front end of the finale. I thought Milton and Andrea's whole story deserved a bigger thing. And with Milton kind of dying right there at the beginning, so to speak, I felt kind of like, oh, like a letdown. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, maybe it should have been towards the end. I don't know. I don't know how that would have worked. I'm just upset that he died. Um,
Yep.
I just think there is so much more they could have done with that character, and just it just felt like it was just a bummer. Both of the deaths in this episode I thought were bummers. One I think was handled better because it was more of a main character. This one was just kind of like an afterthought, which was a bummer. I mean, obviously, he the fact that he died meant big stuff for the next death, like it was the catalyst for it. But I just wish they could have honored Milton a little bit more.
Sure. And I guess his death provided some, tension and conflict with Andrea being in the room and
Hmm.
how's she going to handle when Milton turns and all
Yeah.
that. And so I guess they did it well. I just was shocked that the episode, the finale, started with that death.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I think they did really well with it. I mean, to think that that was the story that was woven through the entire episode, bringing to the finale a death of a major character. I thought that was really good.
Hmm.
I mean, I thought,
Yeah, I think
looking back on it, I
yeah,
think it was good.
I think it was well done. It's just still a bummer that they killed him.
Right.
Yeah. So we have the governor, and he is going to the prison. He's taking his group, and this definitely felt like the setup for the big battle. We have Tyrese and Sasha offering to stay behind, so it's clear that they're trying to avoid the violence at all costs, which makes sense. Tyrese, a few episodes ago, was questioning the governor, and he definitely wants some space from him and his dirty plans. So this is his way of getting it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tyrese and Sasha think differently
Mm-hmm.
about the world in its state,
Mm-hmm.
and violence isn't the answer for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're willing to separate to hold to that conviction,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing. And but it presents some problems for them in their relationship with the governor.
Hmm. And then back to the prison, we kind of have everyone preparing to leave. Everyone's packing their stuff. Pretty much they know that this attack is coming. They're predicting it. And we have Rick and Michonne, and Michonne, I guess, thanks Rick for not turning her over to the governor. And then he says, like, it was not just like about us. It was about like you too. Is basically what he's saying, and it was like a really like sweet scene and just like the teeniest tiny bit of flirting, and I liked it. Did you?
Yeah, and also there's a reference there to Carl. And so
Yeah.
Carl's interaction with Michonne a few episodes ago when they went back home
Hmm.
to visit town, and the episode with Morgan made a big influence on Carl. Michonne did, and then of course Carl has influence on his dad, and so all of that, even though it seemed like an odd episode a few episodes ago with Morgan as a
Hmm.
standalone, it influenced this story,
Yeah,
and it influenced the way that Rick was treating Michonne.
for sure.
Um, so it's interesting when you take a look at how Rick makes his decisions in The Walking Dead.
Hmm.
He's always influenced by something or someone. In this, his son influenced him, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that, and it's a good setup for their relationship going forward, kind of in a better place because there was so much tension between them at first because he couldn't trust her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when the deleted scenes, we see like Michonne really observant of what was going on with Rick, which we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they were really establishing like a connection between them, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
Yep.
So we have the governor and his group. They come and attack. Oh, actually, before we get to the attack, let's we have one scene, and this was kind of a disappointment too. We have one scene with Daryl, and he's talking to Carol about Merle, and this was like I guess their way of like resolving Merle's death. And Carol does say like Merle gave us a chance against the governor, and she is kind of grateful to him. So that was nice, but I'm like seriously, like you guys couldn't give a little bit more resolution to the whole Merle thing. I mean, at least Daryl got to cry over his brother, but like there's no reaction from anyone else. I think there should have been a little bit more to like wrap that up. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think Merle deserved something there, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt cold. But again, considering the world, there really isn't a lot of resolution in the sense of every death.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to just be skipped over and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened here.
Yeah, I mean the this has been very death heavy couple of episodes for The Walking Dead, so I guess they can't give everyone a satisfying conclusion. But then again, maybe you kind of have a problem with how many deaths that you're writing into the story.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
The
That's
nature.
just
And I
my
mean, we're
opinion. Yeah.
talking about such an increase in number of characters
Hmm.
in this particular season.
Yeah.
So obviously, not everyone can have a funeral per se.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So yeah, we have this attack, and at first we're like, why are they wasting all their ammo? Because they're just like shooting it everywhere. Then I was like, kind of like, okay, they're just trying to get to them. Like they're trying to get all of that, all the exterior gone, so they can get to the interior. Was their whole plan.
But it's interesting. I understood their strategy, but who put all those walkers in there? They did.
Hmm.
So, from a resource standpoint, they lost a lot of ammo there. Of course, they had so much
Yeah.
just to clear to get to, uh, you know, the prison interior.
Hmm. And then they kind of make it in, and then eventually there's like explosives that go off, and we find out that the prison group is outside, and then we get a bit of a battle. It doesn't last super long. Basically, there are a few deaths, but it's not like as big of a battle as I was
Yeah,
expecting
it
for
wasn't
sure.
the finale that you expected, like a
Hmm.
war, a long war. It was just
Hmm.
it was a short
Yeah,
battle, and it ended with the governor's gang fleeing.
they flee, but one of the people runs into Carl in the woods, and Herschel's there too, and then they tell him to drop his weapon, but it seems like he's like was starting to a little bit, and then Carl just shoots him.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild. It actually is a very interesting storyline for Carl that they're setting up here, but I feel like I wish there was a little bit more setup to like why Carl decided to do this. It feels like they could have had like stuff in previous episodes.
I think they did. I think they gave us little clues that he was looking at things differently.
Hmm.
Now, there should have been more. And again,
Hmm.
as we've discovered, as we look at deleted scenes and
There was
different
more.
things, there was more.
Hmm.
But, for him, Carl's changing
Hmm.
and he's cold.
Hmm.
He has influence on who's in, right? Shown.
Yeah.
But his understanding of enemies is wild because it's
Hmm.
really anyone not in the group. And that's pretty scary. It's an us versus them mentality
Yeah.
And that is what Carl is growing into. Carl is growing into somebody who could be like the governor, and that is scary.
It's scary for Rick, and Herschel notices that too when he tells Rick like he's worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, we have let's see, moving over back to the Andrea stuff, we pretty much have several scenes with her trying to get the pliers. I mean, and her, some people would be like, why can't she grab the pliers more quickly? But we have to remember that like she was like attacked by the governor. She probably is very weak.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, she was very weak. So you got to give her some some grace for that. It would not be easy to do that. I mean, and the sad thing is that like literally right when she gets out of the handcuffs is when Milton gets up and lunges at her, and then it's interesting we see off screen her yelling, and it's not that made it seem like oh maybe like she made it like she was able to kill him before it like it was interesting that they showed that off screen to me
Mm-hmm.
like the attack or the bite.
Well, I
um
think it was left with a mystery, right? And
mhm.
that's what they wanted to do
Mhm.
because they wanted to have this
Yeah.
ending scene, so to speak, of her story to have this impact. Like, and it
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
Mhm. Okay, so this was an interesting scene. We have they get out of the prison, the governor and them, and then he is spiraling. You can tell in his face like he doesn't know what to do. So he makes the decision to kill all of his army except for two people. This was something I was not expecting at all. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of an unraveling or a spiraling, uh, and he's just continuing to unravel as a
Hmm.
human being and becoming more and more of a monster
Yeah.
to the point where he is like a zombie and
Hmm.
he is killing innocent people.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to see. One character survives, right?
Yeah.
And she's on
We have Karen.
Karen,
Karen was hiding underneath.
and she was almost killed
Mhm.
multiple times. And
And
good.
basically with Karen, we have Rick, Michonne, and Daryl, and they kind of go after, pretty much going after to get back, to attack the governor again. Those three go, and they find Karen hiding in the one of the trucks, and she leads them back to Woodbury. Um, so let's see. Then they arrive at Woodbury, and Tyrese and Sasha are by the gate, and basically, thankfully, Karen's with them, so Tyrese and them let them in. So that made more sense with the Karen connection, to
Absolutely.
give them an end to Woodbury.
I think it was
Um,
important that they had an eyewitness to tell Rick and gang how
yeah.
far the governor has spiraled. It was
Well, yeah.
important.
Well, because Tyrese might probably wouldn't have believed Rick in them, but he would believe Karen, obviously, because
Yeah,
yeah. So that was important. And basically, then Tyrese and Sasha let the Rick, Daryl, and Michonne into Woodbury. Then they go to find Andrea, and we see blood outside of the door. And this whole time I was like, is she dead? Is she dead, or did she kill him before? And at first I actually thought she made it, and then it turns out that she got bit. But basically, what I got from it is that he bit her, and then like immediately after she like stabbed him or something, got him like
or it could have been at the
yeah.
same time. Yeah, absolutely.
It was just that was unfortunate to me. And then we actually get probably my favorite scene of the episode because I thought this was really well done. Her death scene. We have um her Andrea saying like nobody can make it alone anymore, and she tells Michonne it's good that she found the prison, and she's pretty much saying like I'm happy that you're safe. And she
Mm-hmm.
asks about Carl and Judith, and Rick says the rest of us are safe, pretty much saying that Andrea is still a part of their group, and I'm
That
sure
was
that made
important.
her feel
Mm-hmm.
a lot better about all of this. And she says she wants to kill herself, and Michonne's like, "No, I don't want you to," and Andrea pretty much says, "Please," and then she says, "I know how the safety works," which is a callback to season one. I went and rewatched this. Rick, the first time we saw Andrea, she was holding a gun at Rick, and then he gave her the advice like check the safety.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Rick offered to shoot Amy when she died for Andrea, Andrea said she knows how the safety works. So this is a full circle moment, and she And Rick, when she says that, Rick, you can kind of see he like chuckles a little bit in his head, and he lets her do it.
Hmm.
Michonne does stay behind, but we have Rick, Daryl, and Tyrese, and they go out of the room, and then we hear the gunshot, and yeah, what did you think of this?
Yeah, it's incredibly well done.
Hmm.
I love the callbacks. I love the character arc for Andrea. Hate that she died, of course, but
Yeah.
I love that they wrapped that up in a meaningful way
Hmm.
for her story. I mean, she's definitely progressed and grown in certain ways.
Hmm.
Not always, but she's grown, and so they were able to conclude her story arc
Hmm.
in a good way.
Yeah. Um, And one thing, well, actually, no, I'm gonna wait till later to talk about something with that. So we have the people from Woodbury, and they come to the prison back with Tyrese and Sasha and Rick and Daryl and Michonne. So they're all gonna be a part of the prison group now, which is very gonna be very interesting to me. I'm looking forward to that, seeing how Tyrese interacts with Rick and the gang. So that's gonna be cool. But Carl doesn't like this. He um, kind of rolls his eyes and walks away. So again, I think that's a setup for whatever is more of his dark side, that he's against all of this. Would you agree?
Yeah, again, it's the us versus them, and they are them. They cannot be part of us, even though they're just innocent people who were influenced by, a tyrant.
Hmm.
Carl looks at them as the enemy, which really, again, shows you the dehumanization process of um, unhealed grief. He's put on this cold wall exterior, and he really hasn't dealt with his mother's death.
Hmm.
He really hasn't dealt with seeing his father spiral. Really hasn't, he really hasn't killing Shane, killing his mom. He hasn't dealt with any of that, and
Hmm.
we see how far he's going, and
Yeah,
it's not good.
no, but it's not. The final scene is Rick looking up, and Lori is no longer in his visions anymore.
Hmm.
And that was a good way to wrap it all up, I thought, showing that Rick is healing, and Lori is not on his mind anymore, and that he can move on, not necessarily into a relationship with Michonne right away. Of course, I think that was hinted at, but moving on from that part of his grief, I think we're
Yeah,
going to see a better Rick in season 4.
yeah. So, what was the catalyst for that disappearance of Vision?
I guess letting bringing the people back to
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Woodbury back to the prison, and him kind of making that good choice. But again, I feel like, why was Lori the one, like, to influence all of this for Rick when they had such a toxic relationship? It was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I was wondering because I mean that scene of welcoming these people who had been influenced by a tyrant into the family, into the prison, was a beautiful scene, and I loved it. Rick growing as a leader to be inclusive, right?
Hmm.
But I was wondering, if that was the catalyst, the welcoming of people that caused his healing. It really didn't have any. I
Hmm.
mean, all of it didn't have anything to do with Lori.
Hmm.
It had to do with him.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting to see Rick grow as a leader.
Hmm. For sure. Do you have spiritual themes
Yeah, I
pulled
mean, I
up?
got a few
Yeah.
things to talk about. Number one, the difference between Rick and the governor, leadership versus tyranny. We see this in our own world, corruption of power. We see people kind of take matters into their own hands, and for the governor, truth was his truth. It really had nothing to do with facts. He had the justification to kill people. It was pretty scary. But we see the difference there in the past that the Rick and governor were traveling on. Again, we see, redemption and sacrifice. Those themes are always woven into really all of these episodes in these seasons. And the idea of community and family and bringing people together. I love that scene at the end we just talked about with,
Hmm.
the prison.
Hmm.
Um, the title of the episode is "Welcome to the Tombs," and I think the prison is the tombs, and so there's kind of a literal and a metaphorical symbolism here. It's the prison is a refuge, it's a safe place, but it also is a place of death. It's a very interesting title.
Hmm.
But also, there's this psychological tomb that the characters create for themselves through their actions and their choices, which really is about dealing with this crazy world, dealing with grief and loss, and they create these kind of internal tombs where we talked about, well, like with Carl and Rick, as they need to heal through all of this trauma, and a lot of people don't, and that becomes they die, uh, spiral. Anyway, I found that to be interesting theme woven through and seen in the title of the last episode.
Hmm. For sure. So I'm gonna give the finale. It was pretty good. I'm gonna give it a 9. I mean, I wish I could give it a little higher, but it definitely had some issues. Mainly, I wish there was definitely more with the governor and Rick. I think that battle should have been more, in my opinion. That was really the only main thing. But what would you give it?
I'd also give it a 9. I felt like there was great tying things together, but the way they left the opening with the governor, I didn't feel like it was satisfying.
Hmm.
Don't know what's coming, and I feel like there should have been more of a preview of what's coming with the governor.
Yeah.
But that's
Cause I mean, I wish we saw him at least like one more time or something after he killed all of his gang, because we have no indication as to what's going on with him.
right. Just
Um,
a scene or something
yeah,
that would have shown him afterwards what he's up to would have been
yeah,
great.
for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the deleted scenes for season 3 because there's 6 of them total. I liked all of them. I think um, a couple of them definitely should have been kept in. A few of them, could go either way. But the first one we have Michonne and Andrea, and it's when they first arrive in Woodbury, and basically it's like their first impression of Woodbury, which was a good scene. We kind of see um, the spiraling, and I mean, I don't think it had to be kept in. It was one of those type of scenes, but it
Yeah, it
was
was
cool.
iffy.
Yeah.
It was a good scene. I mean, to see Andrea and Michonne's reaction to the governor. The governor was really cold and
Hmm.
mean, and removing it left a little bit of mystery about the governor. So I
Yeah.
get that. I understand it. So yeah, I
I,
think
I think
this was an okay one to cut.
yeah, I think so. But the next one we have Carl and Beth in the prison, and they're talking about heaven and peace, and Carl, and this is I think it takes place right after Lori dies. It's him wrestling with his grief over his mom, and then of course Shane too. And I thought it was a really well done scene, and they definitely should have kept it in. Would you agree?
It was one of the best scenes in the entire series so far. I really wish they would have kept it in. It gave an indication of where Carl was at with the trauma and loss. Gave an indication of really where Beth, how she's dealing with grief and the loss,
Hmm.
her family members. Yeah, I thought it was an excellent, excellent, excellent scene. Loved it.
And like, yeah, it would have been good for like the younger generation, I guess, to see where they're at. Because that
Yes,
one of the things was is that I wanted more of Beth this season. I wanted more of Carl this season. So it would have been great to keep that scene in,
agreed.
just to see where they're at. We never got that.
No,
They skipped over a lot of what those two were going through. I
yes.
feel like
Well,
so.
especially Beth. I mean, there was a little bit more Carl, but both of them should have been included more in these
Hmm.
stories.
I agree. Agree. We also have a scene, and it takes place like where they're all together. The group is Oscar's there, so this was before he died. It's basically Rick's like for the first time he's really spiraling, and we have pretty much he ignores his daughter. He doesn't pay
Yeah,
any attention to her. Everyone's like concerned for him. Um, I don't know. I think this one could go either way. I thought um, it showed where he was, but I feel like it was fine to cut, at least in my opinion.
it was fun to cut. I mean, I wish they could have done something to show his disconnect from his daughter
Hmm.
as he
Yeah,
grieves for his wife. I wish there was something there, but the scene was helpful to show how far Rick has unraveled.
yeah. And then we have a scene with Rick and Lori where this is later in the season where she turns into a zombie and he kind of starts to freak out and Michonne witnesses this from afar. And I think this is a scene that they probably should have kept in. I mean, we never saw Lori as a walker, so I think it was cool to see Rick in like that part of the grief, seeing her that way. I think would have been good, and I think in the original episode or whatever, we did see Michonne like looking after Rick, like worried about him. So that part, whatever. But I think it would have been cool, maybe not cool, but nice to have kept some of that scene in. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I guess I can understand both sides of it. I'd say
Mm-hmm.
50-50.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Carol, and she warns Merle not to mess with Daryl or she'll slit his throat. And then she also says how people underestimate her. I would have liked that scene to be kept in.
I also agree. I think it should have been kept in. It was really important to show the growth of Carol.
For sure. And then we have this nice addition to the Rick and Morgan conversations where I don't fully remember what they talk about, but basically the overall theme or line is that everyone turns. Correct.
Yeah, it was. Morgan was basically saying, the meek inherit the earth, which is referred back to Beatitudes, and he said the weak inherit the earth. It was just
Mm-hmm.
basically a statement saying he was weak,
Yeah.
and so he's left behind. Everyone else has turned.
Yeah.
And I think there's some layers to that as
Mm-hmm.
far as growth. And I take it as everyone dies in this new world, um, one way or the other, except for him. And his calling is to just basically kill everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows how he has not dealt with the trauma.
Yeah, for sure. I like that scene though.
It could go either way, I
Yeah.
guess. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was good. I like Morgan as a character, so hopefully we'll see more of him
I
somewhere
hope
down the line.
so. I hope so. So I think the two scenes that definitely should have been kept in were the Carl and Beth scene and then the Carol and Merle scene.
I agree with those. Both of
Mm-hmm.
those are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But the one with Carl and Beth was probably one of the better scenes ever recorded in The Walking Dead. So I
Yeah.
don't understand why they kept that one out.
Yes, but at least we were able to watch it
Yep.
though. So
Now, rumor is there's other deleted scenes on DVDs or Blu-rays. We were not able to see any more than those 6.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you've seen them, we apologize
Yeah,
that
I
we
couldn't
haven't.
find any more on YouTube that was any besides these 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw something on Reddit that said like these were the 6 on the DVD. It's
Okay.
possible maybe others are leaked out there, but these are the only ones we could watch. The only ones that seems like people have access to.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's talk favorite and least favorite characters of season 3. I noticed you had something pulled up over there about characters that you asked ChatGPT for. Did it give any good insights?
Well, I gave some categories to AI. Say what were the best acting, least worst acting, best character growth, uh, uh, best moral example,
Yeah.
those kind of things. Just curious how other people view this, because I know you're going to ask the question, "Who was my favorite character?" And I already have my favorite character pick, but I'm very curious to what AI said. So
Yeah. Okay, so let's just start off with favorite character. Do you want to go first?
sure,
Okay.
not surprising. My last season's favorite character was Dale. This season's my favorite character is Herschel.
Okay.
And again, same reason. He's the moral compass of the entire show. And I think that role is key, not just for the show, but for life. And so I love having someone that we can turn to get good, wise counsel. So there you go, Herschel. And I liked his ponytail. There you go.
Yeah, it was funny. Some of the scenes where he was like hobbling around, that was probably fun to film.
Yeah, him and his green sock that he wore for the green screen element. But I like the acting. I like the character. And also, to be honest with you, I love the governor. I thought he just such a great acting. Um, yeah. I have some other things to say, but I'll just hold it. All right. Who was your favorite? The best character?
Well, if you've been following along, you probably already know the answer to this. It was Andrea. And she was, I thought, great this season. Even though I looked it up, people apparently hated her this season, and I don't understand why. Um, I thought she did a great job this season. The actress did a great job. You really saw her struggling where her loyalties lied. That was pretty much her whole arc. The way they wrapped it up was all great. Of course, I wish she made it out, and she could be back with the group next season. But one thing I will say is that I think we mentioned this, that she would never be able to fit in back at the prison,
Right.
just because difference in beliefs, people aren't going to take her seriously. So maybe it made sense that she couldn't go back. But at least some people from the prison were there for when she died.
Mm.
I thought it was a great way to like wrap up her arc with her getting that, being able to make the decision to kill herself. So a great character arc all the way through. But I will say for a little sub one, I'm going to say Michonne because I thought this was a great starter season for her. She did a great job. I especially liked her scenes with Merle, not like in the last episode. I thought those were really well done, and seeing her try to like sway him to come back to the prison or to choose a different path, I thought that was really good. And I liked her scenes with Carl in that one episode too. So I think with Andrea, like it was like the end of her journey. With Michonne, I think it's the start of her journey. So that's why those two are my favorite. But I do wish with that friendship they would have given us more. Like I wanted to see more of their like what happened with them when they were like. I wanted to see more of the importance of that friendship.
Yep, makes
Um,
sense.
but least favorite character. I know
Mm.
this is hard.
My least favorite character, surprise, surprise, is Andrea. I thought she was a much better character than last season, but I disliked her for the reason that she was undecisive when things really, really mattered.
Mm,
And I think it's example of being influenced. She was influenced by so many characters that she couldn't go and make a decision on her own. She was like wishy-washy. She had the opportunity to do something that would have saved a lot of people. She chose not to.
mhm,
She waited, but the time, when she was making the decision, it was too late. And so
mhm,
that wishy-washiness for me was just grueling to watch.
mhm,
But I mean, it's her character. This is real life, right? So as much as I'm criticizing her, I live the same way, right? I
mhm,
don't make decisions when they're necessary. I
mhm,
wait, and therefore other people are affected by that
mhm,
decision. I will say I thought the actress, did a much better job this season than last season. I thought she had a really good character arc. Sorry to see her go,
mhm,
but I mean, really, it was hard to find a least favorite character. You could say Merle just because uh, his morals are whacked. You could
mhm,
say other characters, the governor for just being such a evil person, um, but that was my choice.
mhm.
It was not an easy. Because I thought all the characters did great. I loved all the characters in the episodes and everything, but she, out of all of them, she was my least favorite.
Mm.
How about you?
My least favorite was really hard too. I don't have as many reasons for this one, so I'm just gonna say I understood where his journey, like why his journey happened the way that it did because of grief and everything. But like, I thought Rick was very hard to watch this
Agreed.
season.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And I just felt like it was kind of got exhausting seeing him spiraling with his grief with Lori and his terrible decision making in a way, kind of like Andrea. I thought it was just hard to like understand where he was at the time at certain moments. Very questionable decisions again that he made. I do think he's going to be a lot better going into season 4 based on where that ended, but like I just didn't really enjoy um, him for a good chunk of the season.
You mentioning that, Micah. I mean, I agree with you, and I agree the connection you made between Rick and Andrea. I think I disliked Rick for the very same reasons that I disliked Andrea, and so maybe can I change my choice and throw Rick into the mix with Andrea as my least favorite? Because I do. I think they probably, if we sat back and analyzed, they probably had a very similar direction. As far as decision making and grief and all those
Mm-hmm.
things. So, yeah, good insight on your part.
It almost kind of felt like Rick and Andrea were male and female protagonists of the season. At least that's what I thought. They felt like the leaders to me, even if they weren't making good choices all the way through. They felt like those two characters probably out of all the main characters got the most screen time, I would say.
Absolutely.
Um, which is it's just interesting that they end up being your least favorite characters, but um, yeah.
Well, I will say that leadership is hard.
Hmm.
So, for Rick's sake, making those decisions while you're dealing with personal grief, grueling, right?
Hmm.
But you look at everyone in any sort of role of leadership in real life and who are dealing with personal issues at the same time. My goodness, how do you do it? So, all that being said, is I think this show gave us an insight to the difficulties of leaders dealing with their own personal grief and how that affects their decisions.
Yeah, for sure. So literally, I was scrolling through Reddit and I found that this how season three characters line up like a D and D style Walking Dead character thing. Yeah.
Alignment chart.
And we have lawful good as Herschel, neutral good as Maggie, chaotic good as Daryl. Those all make sense to me.
Yep.
Lawful neutral is Milton, Rick is true neutral, and Andrea is chaotic neutral. So notice that Rick and Andrea are on the same level. That's very telling. And then lawful evil is Merle, neutral evil is Andrew, the guy who started those alarms that pretty much led to Lori and T Dog dying. He's neutral evil, and then the governor is chaotic evil. So I thought that this is interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, whoever put that together did a great job. And
Yeah.
this is a lot of what we're talking about in this podcast is the kind of the moral elements of these characters and how they're processing massive trauma.
Yeah.
But that chart is excellent.
Yeah, I agree with all of it. Very, very well thought out.
Yep.
Okay, so season four, which we're going to start soon. I'm looking forward to it. I think what we have to look forward to in season four is the new dynamics at the prison with the Woodbury people. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to cause issues, similar to how the prisoners did from the very beginning of season three. I think we're going to get to see some stuff with that, but I also think, obviously, we're not done with the governor's story. I don't think it's going to last the whole season, though. In fact, I think maybe like the first couple episodes might wrap up. I just don't know how much more they can do with the governor. I don't see him being like a permanent villain, you know.
I wonder. I agree with you because I think that there is a second part of the finale that we're going to experience over the beginning episodes. I think the governor is going to somehow displace the group from the prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do think the prison will end as a refuge because I feel like there's this natural progression that no place is safe, right? Where is home and there's no place. So I think, just projecting here, I think that the governor is going to strike, so to speak, at the beginning. So, do you agree, or
I think so. I think, and I think he's going to meet his fate too, sometime early on. Maybe by episode 5 is my guess.
I think the walkers are going to have a big part in that. I think the walkers are. I mean, Rick's going to have an influence there, but I think the walkers are going to have a part to play in the demise of the governor.
For sure. So season 4, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the new dynamics. Like I'm looking forward to hopefully Rick and Tyrese. I think that's gonna be cool. And then of course more Michonne with the group, and then whatever Carl's going through. I think there's a lot of good setup. I assume we're gonna see Glenn and Maggie get married. I hope that's not off screen. I think that'd be cool to see on screen. However, as a zombie wedding looks or in this, it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. No, but I think it is kind of a bummer that we won't like have Andrea, Merle, and Milton with the group. That's pretty three very significant characters they killed off because I would have liked to see all of them with the group just a little bit longer.
You know,
a lot of potential.
There, when we watched this live, there was a talk show after each episode. Like it was getting so popular, there was this Talking Dead or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and they would have this kind of little video where they said goodbye to characters and showed clips of them and stuff like that. And you know, you think of the characters that we just lost in this episode and kind of memorializing them in a certain way,
Hmm.
but also, predicting where things are going, almost doing what we're doing here, except ours has a little bit of more of a spiritual, moral bent to,
Yeah,
the
and we're covering
discussion.
more at a time, of course, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just interesting to, everyone wants to kind of talk through their hopes and their dreams to these characters because we're invested, right? We
Mhm.
care about them, and we see ourselves in their stories some ways. So, and I'm excited about season 4 because it does give us the opportunity to kind of dream a little bit of what's going to happen with these
Mhm.
characters. But I do think the prison itself is a tomb, and you know it's a temporary place on their journey. So it
Yeah,
is not a refuge.
for sure. Is that all we're gonna say?
That's it for
Okay.
me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we have to cover. But I'm looking forward to talking about season 4 with you. We'll be back next week to kick off with episodes 1 through 3.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, anyways, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
See ya.